certain containers allows you to also save time by not wasting. You won't have extra liquid hanging around, and that's very important as well for not life in general. Also, when you go shopping. So, the spices that I used for the pickling, typical allspice. Actually, I didn't mention bay leaves. Bay leaves are a wonderful component for pickling, and coriander seeds. Coriander is basically the Asian equivalent of they call it Chinese parsley, and it has a lot of medicinal uses as well. Coriander is the seeds of cilantro that most people don't realize, because you buy usually the ground up version in Asian markets, and they say, oh, it's coriander. But I'll pass it around so you can see. And if anyone wants to taste it, they're completely edible. I'll just pass it this way first. And these are actually very medicinal. It's in Vietnam, they use coriander seeds to basically aid in digestion. And if you think about it, in the Southern Pacific, they have very little refrigeration. You know, a lot of them eat basically food that's been out for like a couple days with no refrigeration, subtropic wet earth. But they never really get sick. It's because of the food and the herbs that they eat. You know, like in Vietnamese, they have banh mi, which is it's a French-inspired baguette sandwich that they usually stick, whatever meats that they have. But then they throw tons of Thai basil, cilantro on top, and other herbs as well. So once after you had the brine, basically for half an hour roughly, with the brine water, you rinse off the excess salt, and then it's ready for pickling, and then you put it into whatever container you want right on top, and then basically this is what the end product will look like, and it'll be ready within the hours because of the size you're cutting it as well. You know, this you'll get a bit of the aromatics and then from the cilantro and the allspice, as well as get the light sweetness from the sugar. But like this type of jar, I can easily keep, since I didn't have a canning jar. If you put it in a regular container, plastic container, I'd say 2 weeks is a pretty good time to hold it in your fridge. And then it basically, like I said, it acts like a half-sour watermelon, no, cucumber rather. So it's homemade pickles essentially. And then that's the thing about salads is you have tomato, cucumber, and the watermelon is basically the ultimate salad because it provides everything. You got the red meat, which is the lycopene that you get from the tomatoes. The rind actually has a lot of properties that cucumber has, that extensive amounts of vitamin C, dietary fiber as well, and it's just it's totally amazing. Just the utilization of skin and seeds as well. So. For the next part, we have the champagne vinaigrette. Yep. Sure.
Put abbreviation on your recipe.
Sure.
CT?
CT count. So like a half watermelon. Basically, the way I did the recipe was if you start off with the process of the smoking, I'm going through the entire process of taking a half watermelon. You get the balls that you need, and then basically the half rind, and then from the next recipe, you take all the scraps that you would get from removing everything, and then process it to the next step. So basically, it's the order of process, and it also, if you think about it, if you ever organize a future cookbook for yourself, for your family, if you have a way, that's one way of just making sure that every component is used all the way through.
I noticed they're just different shades of watermelon.
Yep.
Rounder ones. Any difference? I noticed yours was the lighter skin. It seemed to be the rounder rather than the over. Does it make any difference, or?
No, you can basically all watermelons are from the muskmelon family. They are the different varietals are based on the location that they're grown. A lot of it to do with the nitrogen in the soil. So they grow. They have different variances in the sweetness as well. And some farmers crossbreed certain watermelons to have resistance to bug species, invasive pests, or and then certain watermelons like I forgot the exact varietal, but they are more resistant to critters, but for the most part, the entire process of different watermelons, especially if it had, like the red variety has, extensive amounts of beta carotene, lycopene, everything that's good for the heart. The yellow ones have different components, I believe. They have a different variation of beta carotene as well. And I'm just trying to think of everything off the top of my head. So, yeah. Okay. So I have from the entire demo this process this morning when I was prepping this. This is all the watermelon that was left after I scraped off all the balls and then shaved off everything from the rind. So, once you actually puree with a hand mixer, this was actually, in terms of volume, probably an entire bowl full of a watermelon. But when you think about it, it's basically all just water. And then when you break everything down, all the air gaps are gone, and you're just left with X amount. And this could be good for doing cocktails as well. It's basically watermelon juice. And last year I did a trick where I took the juice of a fruit and made it into caviar, which actually, if anyone's interested, that recipe I can send it to you guys at the end of the if you leave me an email. But that was another demo. But so this is all basically just all water and a simple vinaigrette. Regular vinaigrette ratio is essentially 1 part vinegar to 3 parts oil, and then I have a bit of champagne vinegar, bit of mustard. Mustard is actually an emulsifier. What emulsifier does is it allows fat proteins and water proteins to mix together and become uniform. This will be a temporary emulsion, but just adding a small bit of mustard is basically like adding, for example, a great example of a emulsion is Caesar dressing. Caesar dressing is basically all eggs added in with oil, and the emulsion from the egg yolks as the emulsifier is actually what keeps everything shelf stable. So a little bit of Dijon mustard. And then I have some regular oil, which is not coming out. So a temporary emulsion, what it will look like essentially is basically it would, or for the most part, it looks somewhat uniform, but after about maybe 20 minutes, it'll all break down and separate. So by adding the mustard, you keep the emulsion a little longer extended. If I actually had a hand mixer that was rotating at 500 RPMs or 100 RPMs, that would actually almost bring it to a mayonnaise state, which would actually, which is actually a great thing because even though it's in a mayonnaise state, when you add it to fresh greens, mesclun and romaine, the amount of water in the greens itself, because it'll interact with the salts from the vinaigrette, will actually pull out the water in the vinaigrette, pull out the water in the romaine rather, and mesclun, and actually loosen up all the dressing. So it no longer is in that form of being almost like a mayonnaise. So just a little shake, and basically, I believe I added about almost 50-50 mix between the watermelon because I wanted that to basically permeate through the recipe, the salad. And this is the end result. Is a quick stir, and you have a temporary emulsion that's for the dressing, champagne vinaigrette with the watermelon. Any questions so far? No? So I'll take the cheese. One important thing about using dried nuts is that you gotta have it toasted just slightly. This works as well for a lot of spices as well, like coriander, because a lot of dried goods commodities, the spices and nuts, are basically left in storage for months at a time, sometimes 8 months. And what happens is the oils actually recedes back into the center of the shell, and when you bite into it, you basically have almost like a stale taste to it. So if you have anything in the pantry, such as peanuts or pecans that's been in there for a while, just popping it on the stove top lightly, and then warming it up actually loosens the oils inside and brings it outside as well. So you also get more intense flavors permeate through. And if you wanted to make your own spices, like with the fresh coriander, you could actually take a simple tool that most people have at home that they only use for coffee. Standard coffee grinder is amazing. I actually have 3 grinders at home. One is specifically for salts, another one is specifically for spices, and one's for coffee. But in the middle of Black Friday, I think these are like $5 sometimes, and you just get a couple of them, and you can actually make your own spice blends. And then that's the thing, once you learn about how spice blends work, say, example, if you love Indian curry, you think of curry as a spice, but it's actually a blend of spices. It's a blend of typically cumin, coriander, and turmeric. So that's like the base. And then if you want to do Madras curry, it has cloves and cinnamon in it as well.
So you put the seeds in there?
Yeah, you can make your own butter, or your own basically just toasted powder, like seeds powder. But I was just demonstrating for the fact that, like for the coriander, if you wanted to have a more flavorful spice. So just having it lightly toasted, and then, especially if you're working with the salad, it's nice to add fresh sea salt onto any nuts as well, directly. Because now that the oil has actually gone out of the shells, by adding salt, it actually sticks onto the nuts. That way, every bite of the pumpkin seeds will actually have a bit of salt, and salt is basically an intensifier for the flavor. You got your, with the vinaigrette, which is vinegars are actually superchargers of flavors as well, which is why most salads have some sort of acid in it, whether it be like lemon juice or yuzu. So I'm toasting that's toasted. And then, like I said, multi-function. We have some wonderful goat cheese. We actually, at Yono's, we try to focus on staying with as much local products as possible. So for our local cheeses, we actually use RG Chev, which is based out of Cohoes, New York. Sean is an amazing cheesemaker, craftsman. He actually works directly with Adventures in Foods, who provides him with fresh truffle shavings, actual Piedmont black truffle shavings, and they incorporate it into the goat cheese. I believe they have a new line that just came out, I think it was called Midnight Goat cheese. My mind's slipping a little bit for what they just released. It's totally brand new. I just demoed it a couple of weeks ago, but just find it. We have amazing cheesemakers in the Hudson Valley, by all means. Like Coach and whatnot. But just finding local, something that's just around the corner is also just as amazing. You never think about just looking down the road, and then sometimes the smallest farms will have the most random things. Yep, they're out in Menands. They originally were downtown Albany, right off the Clinton Ave exit, but they moved to the Menands Farmers Market.
They're at most of the farmers. They are at Del Monte.
Yeah, they bring everything, but their main office is right out in Menands. So it's actually, you can visit them for retail as well. They have the access to the RG Chev and every single Hudson Valley cheese in the area. That's the south of here. They have it supplied to them as well. So the torch, goat cheese is also wonderful when you lightly brulee it with just a touch of sugar. What it does for the salad is actually gives you that warm mouthfeel and just light enough to give you the contrast of